Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. In this clip, Bishop Barron is going to interact with the student over a Q&A. He gave a speech, a lecture at Notre Dame University on the relationship between the church and the university and how the church is actually like the foundation for the university and how important it is to keep the two together. So they're going to get into all sorts of interesting questions that often students have, like LGBT, inclusivity, how to understand just the relationship between Christian faith and how to navigate our society. But first, I have a quick ask. It is the season, after all, for giving, and me and my wife have an opportunity to go and serve in Brazil on an island called Floripa. And I just think it would be so amazing. I wasn't going to do this, but I thought it would be a great opportunity for many people that have watched this channel for a long time to be able to support us. We do need quite a bit of money, and we're going to be asking our Christian brothers and sisters for a little bit of help in providing funds for us so that we can go and do this mission work to help impoverished people in this area. It's also one of the most atheistic regions of Brazil. So there's lots of people that are irreligious. And I'm just really looking forward to the opportunity to do missions again. So if you could help us, I have a GoFundMe link at the bottom. All right, let's go.
Yeah, let me just say before we start that I've done this for a long time. I don't like Q&A sessions, to be honest with you, because we know what I'm saying, because often people will just start giving speeches and then the speaker himself starts giving a second speech. So what I prefer is what we're doing here is just give me some questions and I'll try to give kind of punchy, short answers. So that's the way I kind of prefer, and we might get through a number of them then.
This person says, "Hey, Bishop."
Hey.
Okay. All right. Feels like it's been responded to. Why isn't the idea of a Catholic university a contradiction in terms?
No, it's the opposite. That's my whole talk. So that was yeah, that was submitted before my talk. So I hope the talk made that at least somewhat clear, that it's the opposite of a contradiction. And in fact, the university comes ex cordia ecclesiae. And if we see them as a contradiction, that's born of typically modern misunderstandings of the nature of a university and the nature of theology. So that exists. I mean, those misunderstandings are there, but I hope the talk was designed to answer precisely that question.
Our next question is, how should a Catholic university balance being a voice for Catholic thought in the world and being a leading scholastic community open to all perspectives?
Well, it depends what you mean by open there. Is it a place where many voices are heard and many ideas are explored? And yeah, of course. But to be a Catholic is to have certain convictions. So I'm not open to all perspectives. I mean, I'm not open to an atheist perspective. I'm happy to talk to atheists and to study them and read them, but I'm not really open to atheism. I'm opposed to it. I like to argue against it. I'm not open to communism. I'm against it. I want to argue in favor of something else. So I guess the whole openness thing, in that sense, I'm with someone like Stanley Hauerwas. I don't know if people read him anymore, but there's something kind of overrated in a way about openness. Or Chesterton, that the open mind is like the open mouth. It's meant finally to close down on something nourishing. If your mind is just open to all perspectives, then your brains fall out. You know what I'm saying? Is that finally your mind is meant to clamp down on something nourishing, right? Thank you.
How might a Catholic university like Notre Dame best share the gospel message and invite people into the Catholic tradition who are not Catholic or not religious at all?
Yeah, and never ever do that in an aggressive or overbearing or proselytizing way. I'll tell you, when I was a bishop in California, we had the Ad Limina visit with Pope Francis, and someone raised that issue with him because he used the word proselytize. He's against proselytizing, and he just made that simple distinction between real evangelization and proselytizing. The latter being a kind of aggressive, disrespectful, domineering approach. We have to avoid that at all costs. I think you winsomely show how intellectually compelling and morally luminous the Catholic tradition is. You live it and you talk about it in a confident and non-domineering way. And I think people find that attractive. So I would recommend putting aside all forms of proselytizing, but welcome all forms of evangelizing.
I think that one is so important because it's important to see that if you're proselytizing, you're really just converting people by power. You're not winning their heart over or their mind over. All you're doing is forcing them to become something that maybe they don't want to be. If there isn't a heart change, if there isn't a mind that is actively engaged with the faith that never comes through, powering over somebody, but freely offering an invitation winsomely to participate in the faith, there's really no point in evangelizing in the first place.
On a related note, something we're thinking a lot about in campus ministry, especially, is what is a kind of authentically Catholic inclusivity look like, right? Inclusivity is kind of one of these secular values that kind of everyone can
Right.
agree on, but particularly with regard to the LGBTQ community, what is a Catholic university's approach to that community and diverse communities in general look like?
Well, let me say a word first about inclusivity. As you suggest there, it's a word that's borrowed from the secular, very psychologized culture. I would much prefer the terms justice and love. We're a community of justice, which is, I think, the most important of the cardinal virtues. Love, the most important of the theological virtues. Justice is rendering to each his due, right? That's the classical definition. So we're always called upon to be just. It's never right not to be just. You must always be just. Love is willing the good of the other. You must always love in all circumstances. There's never an exception. It's never right not to love. Those are truly absolute values. Inclusivity, seems to me, is not an absolute value, it's a relative value. Sometimes it's just and loving to include, but not all times. I mean, may I just say something blunt to all the Notre Dame students here? You're included in this community because lots and lots and lots of other people were excluded from it. Am I right? I mean, hey, we're a radically inclusive community. Well, then how about everyone that ever applied to Notre Dame are welcome? It's not true, is it? I mean, and my point is, your being here, I would say, is an expression of justice and love. Those are more important values than inclusivity. It's not to say it's not a value, but it's a relative value. My complaint with the diversity, equity, inclusion stuff is not that those are bad things, but they're not absolute values, they're relative values. When you absolutize them, then trouble emerges. Is diversity a good thing? Sure. But is it absolutely a good thing? No, I would say it's a relative value. Stick with justice and love. Those are absolute values. And that should govern a place, I think, like this, which is coming up out of that great tradition of the cardinal and theological virtues.
All right, so you can kind of see the gist of what's going on in this Q&A. I guess what's so interesting about this to me personally is the question that comes to my mind is how far are you willing to drift down the cultural, stream in order to be able to resonate with a culture in such a way that you still maintain your integrity as a Christian, but you can still have enough force to draw them back into the real thing, if that makes sense. I think oftentimes things are so diluted, and questions come from a place of not real faith, but they come from a place of wanting to feel like they can be something, but also exist in another sphere because they prefer the other sphere, but they're also, let's say, their family is connected to, um, they're basically branching out from the place from which they came, but they want to be in the place that where they have reached, and but also maintain a sense of connection to the place that they came, even though those two places are fundamentally different. Do you get what I'm saying? I think that that is the underlying problem that exists within, or I should say the temptation or allure that young people face is they want to be a part, they want to feel cool, they want to feel accepted within secular job markets and within the broader culture at large. But the Christian faith really is juxtaposed to much of the stuff that happens within culture. And then the question is, do you just deny culture or do you find a way to navigate it? And I think that that's so important. And I think that's what Bishop Barron is trying to show them is that, yeah, you can understand the different ideas like inclusivity, and they are basically he's providing an answer that is kind of a via media approach. Like, is inclusivity, and I've never heard Bishop Barron talk about it in this way, so it's kind of helpful for me to hash out as well. Inclusivity is a value, but it's a relative value. It's not an objective value. It's relative because he uses the example with the students at Notre Dame. Inclusivity, if Notre Dame was all inclusive, then there would be no delineating mark of justice or judgment on the part of Notre Dame to decide which students should be at Notre Dame and which ones shouldn't. And of course, that's an extension of justice and love. And so it doesn't always follow that inclusivity as an objective value needs to be enacted, if that makes sense. And that makes perfect sense to me. I think that because we live in a why people don't like that is because we live in a fallen world, and that objectivity of justice and love is not always the majority of time because of sinful creatures um, is not manifested in the ways that it necessarily should. It's not a pure love, it's not a pure justice, and that's the issue. And I get that. But it should also be seen that you can't say that you can't perceive that and also see that inclusivity has much of its own faults as well. And so I guess that's kind of the answer to what I stated in the beginning, in the sense that even if you try to fit into the culture, you're just going to be crucified. I mean, what else can I say? In attempting to reach the culture is going to crucify you, much like our Christ. So it's not so much about fitting into the culture or acquiescing to the culture. It's much more about knowing what the culture is and what you're going to receive from it, namely hate, namely maybe some sense of prestige or honor or whatever you can get from a fallen human society. But in the end, it's going to crucify you. You're going to die. And the question is, will you love anyway? That's kind of what the gospel is all about. Um, and I guess as I look at those young people, that's a long road ahead. And of course, I'm a young person as well. It's a cross to carry for quite some time. And you're not going to get through it just by joking a little bit here and there or just kind of meandering through life. You really have to be intentional. You have to focus on Christ. You need a daily dose of Him, as I often say. And without Him, there is no Christianity and there's no life, there's no truth, there's nothing of the sort. Um, and so I guess I'm sensing there's a little bit of a jovial spirit, and I think that's a good thing. But also, I wonder how deep the wells of eternal life are in these hearts. And of course, I don't know that. I can only pray for them. And again, this isn't coming from a place of judgment. It's coming from a place of I really hope that they have what they need to be able to endure this life, to be able to endure the crosses and the sufferings that they're going to partake in. Um, and I think lots of them will, and I think others of them, probably won't. I mean, that's just the nature of this world, so we need to be deep in prayer. We need to be deep in prayer for these young people, um, that are wondering how to navigate their lives. They talk about the will of God for their lives. They talk about other issues of how to navigate, secular culture and universities and how important church is, and I guess that's where I would end. How important church is and being a part of a community that can bolster you and provide you the help in your greatest times of need. That's ultimately what you need. I mean, an education is great. These are Notre Dame students, and education is great. It equips you for your vocation in life. But the reality is that life is so much more than that, and it goes so much deeper than that. And you definitely don't want to privatize your faith. You want to make it the central thing in your life. All right, that's kind of some of my thoughts that I was intuiting while listening to some of these questions. Please be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.